Our Around the World segment tonight, President Trump has vowed to help broker peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. But in order for peace to be achieved, the Palestinians need to stop rewarding terrorists. And a good first step would be passing the Taylor Force Act. With me now to tell us what that is, former IDF soldier and former NYPD officer Mika Danzig. Mika, thanks for being here.
As always, thanks for having me, Liz.
All right, the Taylor Force Act, it's currently in Congress right now. What is it, Mika?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think we have to know who Taylor Force is. Taylor Force was a human being. He was actually an exceptional human being. He was a West Point grad, an American soldier, an officer who served this country in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then after he completed his service in Iraq and Afghanistan, he went and got accepted into an MBA program at Vanderbilt University. While he was at Vanderbilt, on March 8th, 2016, so not that long ago, he was with a group of Vanderbilt MBA students in Israel, where they were there to learn from Israeli entrepreneurs and exchange ideas about the startup business, the startup climate in Israel. And one night, March 8th, 2016, as I said, he was walking through the city of Jaffa, just south of Tel Aviv, and a Palestinian terrorist, armed with a knife, started running through Jaffa and stabbing people. He stabbed 11 people, including Taylor Force. One of the other people he stabbed was a pregnant woman, and Taylor Force sadly died. That's who Taylor Force is, and that's why the Taylor Force Act is pending before Congress, because that's the family of that terrorist, like the family of every terrorist who dies during an act of terrorism in Israel, or the terrorists themselves, receive monetary rewards from the Palestinian Authority under what's known as their Pay to Slay program. And the Taylor Force Act wants to put a stop to that.
Right, and this Pay to Slay program, it's absolutely shocking to me that this type of thing exists in our modern world. But this is a government-sponsored program by the Palestinian Authority. Actually, there are two ministries they have set up for this. They have an incredible amount of money budgeted every year to pay the salaries of terrorists who kill not just Israelis, not just Americans, but anyone who they disagree with. How much money is that?
Well, annually, it's a full 7 to 10% every year of their budget, over $300 million, which is, by the way, not too coincidentally probably, about equal to the amount of money that the U.S. gives them minimally every year. The U.S. minimally gives them every year about $400 million, no string attached money. And what the Taylor Force Act is saying is that you have to stop paying for terrorists, paying the salaries of terrorists, rewarding terrorists for murdering people, including to date, since 1993, over 65 Americans, like Taylor Force, and you have to stop then celebrating their murders. Because the moment after Taylor Force was killed, the Palestinian Authority's own party, the Fatah party, began celebrating his murderer, calling him a martyr, a hero, putting on its Facebook page things that were celebrating this human being, hard to call him a human being, this terrorist, right? They gave him a funeral where they said it was a national wedding. They referred to it on the Palestinian Authority news, talking about the Islamist ideology, I should say, that he's now married to 72 virgins because he killed Taylor Force, an American soldier who was a tourist in Israel. That's how heinous this is.
Right, it's awful, and it's even more awful. I mean, the compensation, the salaries that they pay, either to the terrorists that kill Americans or Israelis, or the families if the terrorists have passed away, the amount of compensation is actually correlated to the number of victims or the severity of the harm that they inflicted on other people. They reward the more gruesome the murder is. Like I said before, it's almost unthinkable.
It even goes beyond that, Liz. If you think about it, if you're jailed as a result of committing an act of terror, the Palestinian Authority, they consider every year that you're in jail to be a year of service as a government employee. And if you're jailed 5 years or more, you have a guaranteed job for life with the Palestinian Authority. So not only do you get paid more than the average engineer does living under the Palestinian Authority every month while you're in jail, when you get out of jail, you have a job for life. And they actually use your time in jail as time towards your promotions, your rank. So if you do 25 years in jail for terrorism under the Palestinian Authority because you killed a lot of people, then when you get out of jail, the Palestinian Authority makes you the equivalent of a general in their military or police force.
Right. It's nothing less than an incentive program. It's clearly an incentive program to encourage people to commit these terrible acts of violence. The more violent the more reward. It's horrible here. So I want to go back to something you said before, though. You said that the United States gives about $400 million to the Palestinian Authority every year, no strings attached. We also mentioned $330 million, about $330 million is their budget to reward these terrorists. What exactly, the Taylor Force Act now, in honor of Taylor Force, the individual, the Taylor Force Act in the United States Congress right now, what does it stipulate?
It says, what common sense says, is that we're not going to pay you this money anymore unless you stop the pay to slay, period, and you stop celebrating and inciting terrorism and the murder of Jews.
Right, and like you said, that seems like simple common sense to me. Why isn't there 100% consensus on this? What's controversial about that?
Well, the Palestinians, of course, deny that it's pay to slay. They claim it's just money for widows and orphans and to make everybody who's in jail live the same life as they would if they weren't in jail. But that, of course, is belied by the actual facts. If you steal a car in the Palestinian Authority, or you rape another Palestinian in the Palestinian Authority, or you commit any crime that isn't terrorism that murders Americans and Jews, right? You don't get this money, and your family doesn't get this money, and you don't get these benefits of government employment for life. None of this applies unless you commit an act of terrorism,
right,
what they also call an act of martyrdom. It also belies the culture that encourages this, the fact that these people are heroes, that the Palestinian Authority names town squares after them, schools after them, soccer teams after them, etc. So that argument by the Palestinian Authority makes no sense. The biggest concern, I think, that many Democrats in Congress have enunciated, so to speak, with respect to this act and its common sense approach, is their concern that withholding payments from the Palestinian Authority may strengthen Hamas. So basically what they're saying is, because something else is even more awful than the Palestinian Authority, we want to keep giving unconditional money to the Palestinian Authority. But that's just treading water.
Right. That's not a logical approach. I understand, of course, that they don't want Hamas, the United States government, we don't want Hamas to grow or gain any more authority or leverage or capacity than they already have to commit terror acts. But giving money to the Palestinian Authority is clearly not the answer here. I mean, the Palestinian Authority, President Obama, as you know, said that the Palestinian Authority is moderate. Perhaps he was comparing them to Hamas, but exactly. I still don't know if that's a very accurate comparison here. But if we look at the president of the Palestinian Authority right now, Mahmoud Abbas, he's not exactly moderate. He's not exactly pro-democracy. I mean, this man was elected in 2005, I believe it was, to a 4-year term. He's still in power. This is significantly further along than 4 years.
Of course. Look, he's the, quote, president for life or until he's deposed.
Right.
That's the nature of the, quote, democracy in the Palestinian Authority. Sadly, it's the nature of democracy practically everywhere in the Arab world, where being a moderate is only a compliment by virtue of the comparison to the heinous. So the fact is that all we're doing right now, as I said before, is treading water with these payments. We're maintaining the status quo, and we're not doing anything to incentivize good behavior, better behavior, and improvement. If the Palestinian Authority actually used our money to help ordinary Palestinians, instead of helping Mahmoud Abbas build a $13 million mansion, and instead of going to pay for and encourage terrorism, right, then we might actually see a change in the culture of the Palestinians. Right now, it's not a culture of peace, as Mahmoud Abbas claimed the other day in his press conference for Trump. It's a culture of death.
No, and I think we'd see that. I think we'd see that evidence too in the fact that they would be able to make a peace deal with the Israelis if they actually pursued true peace here. But as long as they continue to fund terror, to incite terror, to celebrate terror, to teach their children to commit terror and then to reward terror with incentive programs like the pay to slay, I don't think a peace deal is, frankly, possible. It's simply not possible.